Hey YouTube, gonna go for a ride later, but right now I'm gonna do some cleaning. I'm just mainly gonna wipe off. I got some grease building up on the bottom of the bike from where the chain loop has came off, slung on the bike. So I'm gonna wipe off the chain a little bit and go and wipe off the fenders. Just basically just wipe off the bike. People were asking me what I used for the slime. There's two ways to put slime in. You can take the valve core off and put it in with a squeeze tube or gravity, or you can buy this through core stuff, and it won't pressurize the tire. It will on this a little bit, but it won't pressurize the tire. And this is a clear liquid, a white liquid versus the green stuff. And slime works, basically it's liquid latex pretty much, and it goes in and if a hole develops, it actually loses pressure while it's sealing the hole. So if you have a situation where you pick up a nail, you're going to lose a little pressure, and that's expected. So the bike is, I believe I'm at 491. So we'll call this the 500 mile. It will have 500 miles by the end of the day. So there's going to be a little grease around your seat tube. If you've greased your seat tube, leave that put. It'll keep water from migrating down into the seat tube, and aluminum will corrode. You want to keep your bike spotless, but just remember, keeping it clean does make a difference. I got greasy pant legs from not wiping off the grease from the chain on the chain ring protector. And if you wipe all the grease off the chain, you're going to have to put some back on. I'm just taking a rag and running the chain backwards and wiping off the excess. You don't necessarily have to use a chain cleaner unless your chain is really dirty, but in this case it's not really that dirty. I'm just wiping off the excess gunk, and after you do that, you're not going to want to use this rag until it's washed. So we'll toss that one on the ground. Now I'm going to have to put some oil back on it, but I have chain and cable lube, long lasting, that I use for the cable. I need to get some more white lightning. The stuff I had was over 15 years old, and it works fine. Your chain's still going to get dirty. Don't think that it won't. It will. So I just put some wax on this the other day, so I'm not going to wax it, but I am going to wipe the dust off of it. And this is a microfiber cloth, so it's going to pick up the dust and not scratch the paint. I haven't had any problems with rattles on my bike, unlike Karen. Yesterday we were noticing the seat was making noise, and now would be a good time to check and see how well your brakes are aligned. So generally just wipe your bike off. If it needs more than just a wipe off, You could use a spray degreaser, just be careful where you put it. Wipe your derailleur off. And meanwhile, checking the condition of the bike while you're doing this. I'm noticing that the little plastic protector they put on the cable on this bike does not want to stay put on this side. On the other side it stays put, but on this side it doesn't. So I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to sweat the little stuff. It's on there, but not very far. So wiping the rim off. Just spinning the tire as I need to get in between the spokes. On a normal bike, this is not really that hard, but on this one, since the spokes are so widely spaced apart, you wipe your tire off at the same time. But these microfiber, I get them at Sam's Club, do a good job without having to use anything other than elbow grease. So I'm not going to wipe the front one off, it's hardly dirty. The patch I put on the front of the seat using the barge cement hasn't come off. Doubt it will. Got some good stuff. So if you ever need to glue a shoe, go to your local leather store and ask them for barge cement. Anything leather, it's the best stuff out there. So my wife's bike has, I don't know how many miles on it, but we went for 10 yesterday, so 60, 70. So they make this white lithium grease that you can buy in a spray can if you need to use, if you don't want to stick your fingers in a tub. It's a little thinner, but for the seat tube it works fine. On her bike, I need to figure out what's going on with the seat, because she told me it was creaking and making all kinds of noise. So we're going to pull that off. And there's a dropsy here. There is a bolt here, and it isn't really screwed on far enough. So it's a self-locking nut. So we got to we'll tighten this up a little bit if it'll let me. You want the threads past the plastic locking. Have a crescent wrench in my bike all the time. Actually, I bought this just for the bike because there's so many different screw sizes and bolt sizes. So we're going to screw that down a little so they're about equal. I do not see another reason. So on the bottom of this seat, all there's two plastic guards here, and the seat is stapled and glued. The covering is. So this seat could be recovered if you needed to. If for some reason you wanted to recover it, it's possible. So I don't see any other reason why this would be making noise other than that wasn't really tight enough. So put the little rubber pieces back on there. It uses a spring compressor. Now, I'm going to put a straw in this can of white lithium, and I'm going to spray down in the spring, and maybe that'll help if I can get it out of the crack here. I hope a little bit, but don't overdo it. You'll just end up and it has a ball in there, so we're gonna spray just a little bit in there, get that lubed up, put it back on. Everything looks good. So if you have a little adjustment on the seat rail. If you need the seat to move forward or backwards, you can adjust it a little bit either direction. There isn't a whole lot of adjustment, but you can. The seat that comes on the XP, you can adjust a little bit. So there is markings on the seat, but unfortunately in my wife's case, the markings are actually still in the seat tube, so you can't use those as a reference. Riding a bike, now I'm going to tell you, because you should start with the seat a little lower than you normally would have it until you get used to the bike, and gradually raise it 1/4 inch or so every day until you get to the height. If you can pedal the bike and get off and put your foot down, your seat height isn't right. You should not be able to stop the bike without getting off the seat. Now, I mean, if you have a balance issue or something, I guess you could compromise, but what you're going to end up doing by having the seat too low is you're going to put a lot of strain on your knees, and it can cause some serious issues later on. You might not notice it right away, but if you're waking up with sore knees after you ride, there's something wrong with your seat height. You can have it too high and too low. You shouldn't bounce when you pedal, meaning your hips should not move. If you had somebody riding behind you, they shouldn't be able to see your hips moving, just your legs. So adjust your seat based on how you're riding, but remember, you're going to have to get off the seat if you stop. That's just in order to have the seat at the right height. So don't make a bunch of changes all at once, just gradually make them. So we'll set this back in, put it back about where it was, right about there. Check to make sure the nose is in the right place. Squeeze it until it stops. She also has this drink holder. It works pretty good for a pop. She likes Mountain Dew. I don't drink pop usually. And the phone holder's working good. Her phone is the Ultra, which is bigger than my phone. So it works for that. So if you're wondering, I scuffed up her little shifter here. I'll get some 2500 grit sandpaper I have in the house for my knife stuff, and I'll sand on those a little bit and smooth them out. You won't even be able to know I scuffed them up. So got the fenders all adjusted right. Her bike's pretty clean. Her brakes are adjusted right. And I was saying with the brakes, unfortunately, you can center the brakes a little by loosening up the brackets that hold on the disc brake, but you're not going to ever get it perfect. You just want it so it doesn't rub. If you go to another type of brake, you may be able to adjust it a little more. But hey, they work. They do what they're supposed to. The brake cable on these bikes will be one of the things I change this winter. I'll go to a bike shop and buy some Shimano brake cable housing and a brake cable. The brake cables come off without cutting them, so you don't need to cut them. I have not took these little fair rules off the end of the cables yet, but the cables on the bike are too long. There should only be about an inch more or so from where it connects to the brake, and there's 2.5 inches on these, so they need to be cut off. So I already discussed you can solder those. And everything else, haven't had anything come loose. All the stuff, actually all the bolts that they used for the racks and everything all look stainless steel. And I'd be surprised if they were, but they look like they're stainless steel. If you're having problems with the rotor still rubbing, you might just go to a bike shop and have them straighten the rotors with the tools. It ain't worth spending the money to buy the rotor tools, not if you only have one bike. If you have a fleet of bicycles that all have disc brakes, it might be worth buying them. They're not cheap, and they're just a little fork looking thing that you put over the rotor and you bend it. So I don't know if I would spend the money to do it. If I was doing a repair business or I had buddies coming over all the time that wanted me to work on the bike, I might do that. But I don't typically ride with anybody, so just noticing that I missed a couple of spots. You don't. So if you could go in with a couple of people and buy the tools, if you have a ride in a club, it would be best to group purchase the tools that you think you might need to do whatever you guys repairs you feel comfortable with. That would be the wise way to do it. So I don't have them. You know, you could use a crescent wrench if you're so inclined, but just remember to be careful. And the rotors aren't expensive. You could just buy a new set. Hopefully they come flat. It'd be easier to flatten them out on a table using a brass hammer. You don't want to use steel on them. You'll just bend them or crack them or whatever. You'd use a brass hammer and bend them down. The mounting point on the back brake seems to be a little screwy to me, and they're not using the whole rotor, so the rotor isn't going all the way in to the caliper. So, and that just happens sometimes. So future upgrades, I'm still thinking about getting rid of that derailleur on the back and going with something a little better quality. A short cage too. These are really long cages. They're really meant for bigger gear difference. If you get your derailleur and you look on the back of it, somewhere on there they'll have a number. It'll say like 34T on the back of it, or 30 something T, or 28T. And that's how many teeth difference can be between the smallest gear on the freewheel and the largest. So this is a 28 to 13. So you only got 15 teeth, so you need a short derailleur cage. There's no reason to have a long derailleur cage on here. And that derailleur, if you're gonna ride this in the winter, right now that derailleur is going to end up in the snow all the time. So if you're considering a derailleur change, you need to go to, and if you don't change your cassette or your freewheel, excuse me, if you stay on the stock size, you could find a short caged derailleur for it, and you could even find a road bike derailleur for it. The derailleur, you can use any quality you want. Up to an 8-speed, I wouldn't try to use a 9, a 10, or 11, or a 12-speed, because the chain is a different width on those, so it might cause a problem. But typically, back when they were doing these multi-gear bikes up to 8-speed, they were all the same chain pretty much. When they went to 9-speed, the chain got narrower, so avoid anything that says 9-speed. But 6, 7, 8, and 9, you're good to go. I mean 6, 7, and 8, you can use those. You can't change to 9-speed and change the chain, because I'm not sure it'll mesh with the front sprocket. Now, if you want to update it all as a set, buy a different front sprocket and a new cassette or a new freewheel, depending on what kind you have, you could do that. It's going to be expensive, but that's where you're going to get longevity out of it. I'm not sure what kind of chain is on it right now. If it's a Shimano, it'll have a UG, an HG, or something in that effect on it. And I cannot read that. It's terrible to need glasses. It is not a Shimano chain. Looks like a KMC. So a Korean brand. So they went with a Shimano freewheel, or I mean Shimano cassette, and a Shimano derailleur, but they went with an off-brand chain. So you got, those are things that all can be upgraded if you want to do so. If you have a question about it, you can send me a comment, and I'll answer your question. The bike, like I was saying the other day, you should be able to realistically get 2,500 miles out of the drivetrain before you need to replace the chain. The freewheel is depends if you use the same gear all the time on the freewheel, you may wear out or stretch the freewheel spacing. As the chain stretches, the freewheels will wear to the chain. So about 2,500 miles you can expect to do that. Bottom bracket and that stuff, that can last more years than you probably will want to ride the bike, as long as it doesn't get too wet or too much junk in it. It's not serviceable, so don't bother tearing it apart. If it's time to replace it, you'll just replace the whole unit. I haven't looked at underneath the cadence sensor, which is on the left side of the bike, to see how that is mounted in there. I'm assuming it snaps in there somehow, because you have two cups at the end of the bottom bracket that have a tool that will go in there to remove them, and they should be plastic. If anything, the right side might be steel, but it's probably plastic too. So yeah, and it takes a special tool. It's not something that you're going to have on hand. Not expensive, $8 and $9 for one. And they make ones that work for multiple bottom brackets. I think I have 2 of them, and that's because at the time when I bought them, there was 2 different standards. If you're having problems compressing your lever for your lock on your frame, go ahead and put some oil on it, because if you have it adjusted right, the oil is not going to make a difference on whether it stays put. Mine stays put, and I put a little this white lithium on it, and it seems to be fine. So for a 500-mile review, the tires are starting to show noticeable wear compared to my wife's. The little knobbies and stuff are starting to wear off. The center of the tread's getting the vast majority of the wear because it's more trail riding, hard surface trail riding than soft surface. But I would believe that they'll last quite a while. They didn't really skimp that much on the tires. The Chow Yang or whatever they are seem to be holding up well. So I said I wasn't getting a tooth pulled. Well, the doctor took one look at my tooth and said I need to get rid of the infection in it first. It's kind of strange, as the tooth is no cavity, nothing. It just died. It just happens. You can have all the best hygiene in the world, but sometimes stuff just happens. So that's been put off until next week, until I take a week's worth of antibiotic to get the infection under control, and then I'll get my tooth pulled next week. Also have a workman's comp doctor's appointment next week. It may be my last, because I just don't see the point of continuing. I'm not going to let them do another surgery on my hand. Nope, ain't going to happen. That's workman's comp problem, is they want you to have a surgery because they think it's the only solution. But it's your choice, and fight for your choices. Don't let a doctor talk you into something. Do your research. If I had done a little more research, I would have found out that somebody my age, over 50, should really consider carpal tunnel surgery as a last resort, because it really only has a small percentage of actually doing its job. So I had carpal tunnel on this surgery done on this hand. Can't even see the scar where they did it. Yeah, I couldn't find the scar if I wanted to, and it didn't work. I still have carpal tunnel. So the bikes are doing great. If you're still on the fence about purchasing one, I think they've got the electric part of it figured out. The bicycle parts all been figured out for years. The Electric XP, $8.99 on their website. You can find a free code to get this bag free. You'll just have to watch some YouTube videos. I think Fate Unbound is the one I used for this, and that they have their own channel. It's more RV based, I believe. So you want to watch their channel. But I think the code is Fate Unbound. I have bags like this for my bike and my wife's. She uses hers, mine are upstairs. I bought this on Amazon because I don't need a pannier on my bike all the time. Maybe if I was going to the grocery store, I'd slap them on there because they will fit. She has a helmet in it and her rain jacket in the other side. So if you get the bike and you're big like me, I would suggest that the first thing you do is go to your local leather store and buy some pig skin and some, if you can't get barge, then the next best thing would be called Tanner's glue rubber cement. Don't buy a big one of it. You don't need it. You can buy a little container of it. Take the pig skin, just take this plastic deal off here and glue it on there. I didn't even do a real good job of cutting a piece and getting it all the same size, but it's on there. It sticks good. It'll protect the nose of the seat from wearing out. You could cover the whole nose of the seat if you're worried about it. I believe Electric will send you another seat if you want one, if it wears through. But I wear blue jeans, so they kind of chafe the front of the seat. So But if you put some pigskin or some really thin leather on there, I wouldn't use vinyl. It's not going to hold up. Uh, really thin leather, pigskin's going to be, it's called a lining leather, and it's for half a side is only 12, $13. So you can use it for other stuff too, and it is super tough. I mean, it's easy to cut, but it's super tough. It's tougher than regular cowhide. So that's where you get that Tandy Leather Store or Weaver Leather. Either one of those you can get buy that stuff through. Uh, you can even find cowhide that's thin enough if you want to use cowhide. Um, so I'm going to call it a day. We're going to go for a ride here in another 45, 50 minutes. It's warming up pretty good. It's like 70 some degrees out here now. And the mosquitoes are out. Another note is on your bike you have a class sticker that says it's a class 2. Some states don't allow class 3 bikes on trails, so if you tear that sticker off, there's a class 3 sticker under, and it's under the film of the clear coat. So you will not be able to get that one off unless you tear the clear coat off. So if you're worried about where you can ride your bike, those stickers are available on Bolton e-bikes. He sells them, I don't know how much, I think you have to buy 10, but he sells the stickers themselves to replace it. If you want to put a class 1 on there, you can. But keep in mind that if the officer that pulls you over may know the difference between a class 1 and a class 2. Class 2 has a throttle, class 1 has no throttle. It only has a PAS setting. So you have to pedal to engage the motor, but on a class 2 and class 3, you have a throttle. So a class 3 bike is up to 28 miles an hour, and they ship these as a class 2, so it's limited to 20 miles an hour, and it pretty much will limit it at 20 miles an hour. The bike will go 28 miles an hour if you go down a hill. But if you weigh over 150 pounds, I doubt very seriously you'll get it to 28 miles an hour. Effectively, the gearing as it's set right now, a normal 80, 90 revolution cadence, you're going to get maybe 18, 19 miles an hour before you're going to over exaggerate your pedal stroke, and you're going to be bouncing and doing all kinds of weird stuff. So, and another thing is you really only need to turn the pedals. If you put it on PAS 5, you can turn the pedals as slow as you want, and it's still going to go as fast as the bike will go. It's not linked to how fast the pedals are going. So keep that in mind. If you're pedaling and you just want to keep the bike moving without using the throttle, you don't have to pedal fast. You just have to pedal. Okay. So, I think that's about it. I have not looked at my wife's gearing on her bike to see, but if it's the same exact gear ratio, but I'll tell you here in a second. Yep, it has the exact same number on it, so it should be exact same gear ratio. These would technically be a road bike gear, but because of the small wheel size affects the gear ratio. It is actually pretty low geared. On a road bike, you would typically shoot for between 110 and 120 gear inches, and on this bike, I think I figured it out at a little above 90 gear inches. So you're down there. That's why I told you the most effective change on this bike would be to change the front sprocket to a 56 or a 58, And if you're feeling the need for speed, you'll get it that way. But I personally wouldn't ride this bike around on a gravel road much more than 17, 18 miles an hour. It's a little quick. The steering's a little quick, and that's because of that short steering handlebars. You want to, if you're going to go faster, you're going to want to change those to something wider. A couple inches wider at least. Okay, please subscribe. If you have any comments, put them below. I answer the comments as fast as I see them. Have a great day. Get out there and enjoy cycling. If you have a question about a regular bike, shoot them my way. I don't really care. I'm not a bike snob, and any of us that ride any bit knows those bike snobs. Those the guys that don't say hello to you on the trail or give you no greeting or look at you like with some disdain. They're out there. The other day we were sitting at a bike bench, and the guy told me I was cheating, and that I should buy a real bike. And I told him, looked at him, I go, you're riding a $400 bike, I'm riding almost $1,000 bike, and you're telling me to buy a real bike? That got his goat. Yeah. So, with some people you just can't change, so don't try. So if you run into a bike snob, just chalk it up as somebody that is ignorant, doesn't understand that anybody out there exercising is a good thing. The healthier we are as a world, the healthier the world is. So please subscribe. Have any questions? Like I said, comment below. Have a great day.